Nice. Nice. Ah, nice. Get there. Nice, David. Nice. Yes. Nice. Nice. And when our expectations are low,
Transworld Sport journeyed to the USA recently to meet up with one of the nicest guys in tennis.
Nice, nice, nice. Great shot. Yes, nice.
Mats Wilander is a 7-time Grand Slam singles champion and a former world #1. He also led his native Sweden to 3 Davis Cup titles during the 1980s.
Yes.
These days, when he's not at his home in Idaho, the 51-year-old works as a presenter and commentator at the Grand Slams, plays on the ATP Champions Tour, and travels around North America with his revolutionary tennis experience, Wilander on Wheels.
The dream was to drive around in the motorhome and play music and go to little bars and with a couple of friends and go out and play. And I'm a horrible guitar player and a worse singer for sure, but I don't really care. But financially it's not going to work, and I'm not sure that my wife would have been so keen on that. So then I thought, well, maybe what about driving around and playing tennis somehow? We used to play
Mats
tennis
rolled out Wilander on Wheels 6 years ago, providing tennis clinics to recreational players at clubs across the USA and Canada.
And try and make them become strength. I've coached a few guys on tour, and these people were more interested in advice than any pro that I've ever coached. And I realized also that it doesn't take that much. I can tell them just 1 or 2 things, and they are going to go, oh my goodness, I can't, wow, it changed my tennis.
In the 1970s, Bjorn Borg emerged as tennis's first superstar, and the sport boomed in Sweden. Mats took up the game aged 6, and although he was also a talented ice hockey player, he decided to focus on tennis.
I really like Jimmy Connors, Ilie Nastase, but that's because they were completely opposite of what Bjorn Borg was like. But really, Borg was so easy to imitate. The way he behaved on the court, the style of play. So that's the tennis you saw on TV. So it just became the way you sort of modeled your game. Most Swedes kind of play like Borg.
Mats joined the professional ranks in 1981 and shook the tennis establishment to its core at the following year's French Open. With Borg, the 6-time champion, having taken a break from the game, several other seasoned pros thought their day may have come. In the 4th round, 17-year-old Wilander beat #2 seed Ivan Lendl and followed that up with victories over Vitas Gerulaitis and José Luis Clerc.
The draw in terms of their ranking was extremely difficult. They were all sort of top 5 in the world. I was just playing, I was running, I was trying not to miss, which I didn't miss much, and good attitude. And I think they all choked because they thought this is their chance to win the French Open.
Guillermo Vilas, a former Roland Garros champion and giant of clay court tennis, lay in wait.
So I go into the finals and I'm literally only thinking about winning games, because 5 sets against him, and he was a big, strong, kind of the Rafael Nadal of our time. And I obviously had no chance to win at all. So I won a game in the first set. That I was actually happy, because at least I won a game.
As Mats settled into the match, Vilas started to waver, and there was a dramatic shift of momentum.
I'm sitting there, the changeovers, and I remember seeing him changing his socks. And I'm like, wow, he must be getting tired. And he's starting to talk to his coach, Jan Tiriak, and they kind of started nearly to scream at each other. And I'm like, wow, something is really happening. My strength was to be aware of my surroundings, especially my opponent. And he just went.
Still 11 weeks short of his 18th birthday, Wilander became the youngest male winner of a Grand Slam title. The following year in Paris, Mats experienced another defining moment when he faced home favourite Yannick Noah in the final.
And it was the match that I learned most probably the most from any match I played, was that you cannot go in, I realized, without a plan. I just thought, I'm just going to react to what he does. And he came in and played completely different than I thought he was going to play. And it took me about a set and a half to really get myself going. And by the time I got myself going, he was so emotionally invested in the match that I wasn't scared of him physically, but emotionally I got scared of him because he was so kind of not in my face in a bad way, but he was in my face, and the crowd it wasn't a tennis crowd. And I was like, wow, I was nearly scared. I felt like a little kid playing against this big guy with a huge hair. So it was most probably the most exciting finish to any tennis match that I've been involved with, even the ones I've won, but to see him go that crazy. People don't believe this, but I'm really happy I lost because it taught me more than anything else, any other tennis match.
Wilander went on to become one of the 80s most successful players, his mental toughness and metronomic consistency helping him maintain a top 4 ranking for most of the decade. Matt's career best season came in 1988. Having won the Australian and French Opens earlier that year, he progressed to the final of the US Open in New York City, where he defeated longtime rival Ivan Lendl.
Crowd was on my side because he had obviously won the US Open a bunch of times before. We were playing for #1 in the world. My dad and mom were there. That was the only time they went to the US Open. I don't like the meant to be part, but everything just sort of fell into place. That was the best moment of my career. At the same time, it was the worst moment of my career because I really felt, wow, that could be it for me. I've lost the edge, like the balloon got deflated. And I really felt that the following day. After that, there were times in matches where, oh, this is not the most important thing in my life right now. I had played professional tennis for 8, 9 years. I've been at the top for 6, 7 years when that happened. That's a natural career, natural length of a career for us in the 80s. Not so much today.
Matt's partner in the Wilander On Wheels venture is Cameron Lickle. A graduate of the United States Naval Academy, Cameron captained the Academy's tennis team and served 5 years in the US Navy before competing on the ITF Futures Circuit.
We spent about 100 days together, and you really get to know a man and what he's like just as a human being. And he's as sweet and sincere and humble as he comes across. And it's pretty great when you put a guy on a pedestal and he's able to achieve the pedestal that you put him on. And what he is an ambassador to the sport of tennis. He loves the sport, and that comes through every day that we're out here.
Following their clinic in Palm Beach, Florida, Matt and Cameron are on the road again. They've driven to over 300 tennis clubs across North America, and on this occasion they're headed 170 miles north to Orlando for another coaching session plus an exhibition match.
I like the driving part because you see America, you see it from the road. I like the campground sort of lifestyle when we have time to do that. You have all your stuff in here in the motorhome. Makes it really easy, and it makes a very interesting lifestyle because you meet a lot of really nice, engaging people who have taken to tennis. Things you get good at.
Matt has also applied his considerable tennis knowledge to the television industry.
Tennis is the way that he moves.
So you got to go through it sometimes.
Oh, I thought it was easy. I mean, 17 years old you can do. No.
It looked easy, but it wasn't.
How are you dealing with the popularity?
He's become an accomplished and highly respected broadcaster, presenting and commentating at all 4 Grand Slam events.
I feel like the older players should have a voice. I want to see tennis go forwards as a sport. I think it's a great sport. And I find it challenging
50,
to do live
60,
TV.
17! That's Wilander!
I realize that adrenaline is something that you don't get in too many parts of life. As a tennis player, you get it all the time. But otherwise, as a golfer, my level, I don't get it. And when I play tennis today, I don't get it. When I commentate and I'm on live TV, It gets you going and it's fun. It's really fun and I love it.
For the past decade, men's tennis has been enjoying something of a golden age. Roger Federer and Rafa Nadal have 17 and 14 Grand Slam titles to their names respectively, whilst the most dominant player of the past 2 seasons, Novak Djokovic, is currently on 11.
Djokovic has time, and if he wins 3 slams a year for the next 3 years, well then he passes Roger Federer. And I think that he is going to be the best player ever when he's done with his career. It is hard to say what, having 1 kid, maybe 2 kids, what's that going to do to him, his motivation, but I just don't see him letting off. I think he wants to be, and I think he will be.
It may be 34 years since Wilander burst onto the tennis scene, but his widespread appeal doesn't seem to have faded. Mats continues to enjoy life on and off the court, and having achieved significant success as a player, coach and commentator, he's also forged a reputation as one of the game's most respected and likeable personalities.
I've always looked at tennis as this is my life. So I'm doing this and my lifestyle is paying my bills. That's incredible. And the best feeling is when you drive out there, you've just left a lunch or a dinner and everybody is most probably lying, but they're saying, oh my God, you got to come back next year. That was the best day of tennis in my life. When I judge the fun level, I think that maybe they're not lying always. It's just tennis. I love tennis.